Hi, I'm Heather. Today I'm talking about how to become an early riser even if you hate getting up early. So for about the past week, I have been getting up for the past couple weeks now, I've been getting up at 5 in the morning. And I'm a morning person, but for me, that's still really challenging. That's like way too early, especially because I started doing this right after the time change. Like the Monday it happened, so it felt like 4 in the morning, which was a really bad idea. For a lot of people, especially if you're a parent or you work a full-time job and you're trying to do something on the side, that might be the only time that you have to actually have focused, quiet time to get stuff done. So that's why I've been getting up super early, and that's also when I tend to be the most creative and can do like writing or just more just stuff you have to think more for. I tend to do better earlier in the morning. So I have found a few different ways to just help me get out of bed and actually want to get up in the morning and get something done. So here we go. Tip number 1, how to be an early riser, is to make your breakfast the night before. In my case, I've been making these really good breakfast cookie things from Sally's Baking Addiction. Highly recommended, really addictive. And they're filling and they're mostly healthy for you. So I've been making those on Sundays and then just eating them throughout the week. And they make enough for the whole week, so it's amazing. I have linked the recipe below because they are so good, especially when you're up at 5 in the morning. I wake up starving, so these have been amazing. Tip number 2 is to start with something you enjoy. I have been trying to squeeze in a little bit of yoga or meditation or something, even for 5 minutes, just to kind of get me moving, warm up the body, get me in a good mindset to go for whatever I need to go after that day. Sometimes if I just jump up and start like checking email, checking social media, I get really overwhelmed. So this is kind of a nice way to ground yourself going into the day, and it just makes it easier to tackle creative tasks after that. Tip number 3, go with me on this if you are willing to try, is to hold off on having your coffee until a little bit later in the morning. A lot of people like to get up first thing in the morning and have coffee right away, like they cannot wake up without it. But what happens is when you first wake up, the cortisol levels in your body rise, which helps you to stay alert and it helps to just keep you awake. And if you add caffeine on top of that, your body starts to become dependent on caffeine, and also your body uses the caffeine instead of the cortisol to help keep you awake. So the better option is to work with your body when there is a cortisol dip, which for a lot of people tends to be about 3 to 4 hours after you wake up. So it might be worth holding off for a little bit just so you don't crash later on. I like to add a little bit of butter or coconut oil to the coffee, and that just helps, I don't know, it just seems to stabilize the caffeine in my system a little bit. Like I don't feel as jittery, and it fills me up, and it just tends to help that caffeine perk go a little bit longer. Tip number 4, stay off email. How many of you tend to jump on your phone the second you wake up, like you're opening Instagram, Facebook, you're checking your email? That morning time is so good for really focused tasks that you just need to like dive into and be really, really focused and really creative for. So I find that what happens is if you open your email or social media, you start getting bombarded with, oh, I have to do this task, I have to do that task, oh, this thing happened in the world and now I have to think about that, or oh yeah, I need to write on this person's wall because it's their birthday. So really, if you do that first thing, I think it makes you feel scattered and it kind of disrupts that quiet focus time. So avoid that until later on in the morning. Tip number 5, which for me is the hardest one, is to go to bed earlier. You have to make up for those hours at some point. If you're getting up at 5 and you're used to getting up at like 7 or 8, you're gonna have to start bumping up your bedtime to like 9 or 10 if you're used to going to bed around 11 or midnight. you have to make up that time somehow, otherwise you're going to be feeling it. And if you wake up at 5 and you've had like 5 hours of sleep, you are not going to want to get out of bed. If you wake up at 5 and you've had 7 hours, you're still probably not going to want to get up, but you feel a little bit more rested and you'll be a little less resistant to getting out of bed and getting stuff done. So those are my 5 tips for getting up early and becoming an early riser, even if you're not. And for me, someone who loves the mornings, loves getting up super early before everyone else, this is still really hard. So I understand that it is definitely a challenge, but these are some of the things that I do to make it just a little bit easier. Winnie. Does anyone else's dog insist on doing yoga with them?